Hello and welcome to another video from the only channel you need to not only survive the current apocalypse but actually enjoy it. And today's video is going to be the conclusion of our series, Written in Stone. I actually should have made the last video the conclusion, but I didn't. And also I know that people want more because people have told me, why did you stop? You could have kept on going and told us the rest. But it's just that I don't know the rest. If you get into the book of Revelation and you're reading about the restoration of the solar system, and I feel like the last video I did about the sea of glass, the sea of ice, the waters above the expanse, the window of the heavens, that was pretty straightforward and obvious, and it's, there's no other explanation for it. So the information I gave you, I don't feel at all worried that that's not true. So I'll post a video if I know it's true. But after that, you get into a gray area. I said that the book of Revelation was about the restoration of the solar system. It could be the restoration of the universe, I'm not really sure. But it talks about a lot of celestial phenomenon that we could guess at, try to figure out, but we really couldn't come up with any conclusions on it because, well, just as an example, it talks about a star called Wormwood coming down to the earth and hitting the sea and turning the waters of the sea bitter. And I think that's a celestial phenomenon, but I don't know what it is because there's nothing in the Bible that talks about this star Wormwood leaving the earth. So why it would have to come back, I don't know. But there's other things that are obvious celestial phenomenon, and those things, we could speculate all day. First off, there's information, if you do read the book of Revelation, know this. When you read about a star, that's from the Greek word aster. And it doesn't mean stars like we talk about stars today. The word star just meant anything, any point of light in the heavens. So they would call planets stars, because it's just a little speck of light that's in the heavens. Galaxies, which appear to be stars, are actually clusters of thousands of stars, and yet that would qualify as a star. So when it says that a star is falling into the sea, it could be a planet, it could be a moon, it could be a star, it could be anything, just literally, through the way it's written. I'm not saying any of that's what's going to happen. But also the word into, as I've looked at it, is sometimes could mean towards. So the star coming towards the earth doesn't mean necessarily that it contacts the earth. And when it falls into the sea, I don't know if it's talking about the sea of glass, or it's talking about the sea or ocean, or some kind of other celestial phenomenon that had the name of sea back in the day. See, right now, I don't know. That's the only thing I'm telling you is I don't know. But I think that happens like on the 6th trumpet blast. So 3 years into the last days, we're going to see so much stuff in that 3-year period that when we get there, we're just going to know what it is. When we see it happening, we'll say, oh yes, that's Wormwood. Now another thing it says in there is that the sun would become as black as sackcloth and the moon would turn to blood. To me, this is describing a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse at the same time. In the solar system we live in now, that's an impossibility. It cannot happen. But it's not necessarily true that it's not going to be a solar eclipse and a lunar eclipse at the same time. It's possible that this star Wormwood is another planet that used to be between us and the sun. But we don't know. In order to have a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse on the same day, you have to have 2 moons or 2 planets circling our planet, or a moon and a planet. That's just the only way that could happen. But it may not be that. It may be that God just somehow darkens the sky, maybe with clouds. All I'm telling you is that it's not important what the mechanics are to cause these events. The important thing is to be looking for them. And in fact, on the 6th trumpet blast, when it starts talking about the sun and the moon being darkened, it says, but all those who call on the name of Jehovah will get away safe. And this is reiterated later in the Greek scriptures where it says, all that call on the name of God will be saved. So It's just going to happen. You don't really need to know how it happens. But I will say this, when I started the series about written in stone, I explained that the things that are in the Bible, a lot of the things that have happened in the past that people say never happened, you really can't deny them because they are written in stone. The calendars, there's 360-day calendars all over the planet. There's 365-day calendars all over the planet. There ain't no intermediate calendars. So that's written in stone. Can't be denied that at one time human beings had a 360-day year. The flood really happened. You know, the Bible says there was a flood. There's flood damage all over the planet in stone. Really happened. The Bible says that we're driving all species to extinction. We're ruining the earth. Revelation says that God's bringing to ruin those ruining the earth. And the fossil record indicates that that is the case. There's bones of species of animals all over this planet that no longer are alive. We did that. And but there's another thing written in stone that the Bible never talks about, and it involves the celestial bodies. And I don't know why it's not in the Bible, and I don't know if it ever even happened or if it's real, but we said before that every culture on the earth has got a flood myth. Now, the scientists that believe in evolution and and ice ages, they believe that the Bible account of the flood is also a myth. So, I've said before, there's no such thing as myths. There is Bible history, which is 100% true in its original languages. Of course, our English Bible has got some flaws in it, but the original language Bible has no flaws. It's pure truth, pure history. And then there is secular history, which is like our own secular history today, or our news, our networks. It's half truths and half lies. But something you need to know about is around the world, cultures have always kept track of the stars for planting and for whatever purposes, for their worship. And it's interesting to note that pretty much every culture on the earth today has the same view of our solar system, our galaxy, and it's recorded. I mean, scientists in China, have the same data that scientists in the U.S. have. And the thing about it, all the ancient writings about the solar system or about the universe don't match what we believe today. The way that they talk about the planets is not anything like the way our planets act today. And what's really unusual is that they all agree with one another. So the way that our scientists agree with the scientists in China today, basically 6,000 years ago, the scientists in different parts of the world agreed with one another. The explanation for this, there's several explanations. One is that one person made up a story, and he was able to go around the world telling everybody to believe in this story, and they did. I don't think that's very likely. Another thing is that those stories are true, and that is likely. I mean, it's more likely than everybody just buying into one story. And another piece of evidence to support this is that in each and every one of these stories, Saturn is involved. And Saturn is described as being much, much closer to the Earth in all of these stories. And in fact, the reason that it makes sense is that every one of these cultures describes Saturn as having rings. We're talking about 6,000, 4,000, 6,000 years ago. People knew that Saturn had rings. How is that possible? Well, the only way now that's another one where people speculate, and they're going to get themselves in trouble because when they find out that what they believe is a lie, then they look stupid. But they say that maybe aliens brought us information. I mean, that's possible. Or the demons told them, that we believe in demons, that the demons who are in contact with people told the human family that Saturn had rings. But another possibility is that Saturn really just was much closer at one time. The telescope was, I think, invented 16th century, 16th century, I think. So it's only been less than 300 years since we know of Saturn's rings being discovered. And then the scientific community really didn't pass the word around about that for probably till about 250 years ago. So it's just something to keep in mind. These ancient cultures knew things different than we know them, so it's possible that they were different, and it's possible that all that's going to be fixed. There's a man who wrote a book I think it was called Collision of Worlds, or Worlds in Collision. And he come up with a lot of, he used math and science to try to figure out how all of this was going to come to a conclusion, and I don't really think you can do that. But he did have good information. He went all around the world researching at different museums these ancient cultures and what they said about the stars and the moon and the planets and the sun, and he put it in his book. And I think his evidence is good. I just don't trust his conclusions as to how it happened or where it's going. The same thing with the Nibiru Planet X people. I think their beliefs are based on all ancient myths, including things that are in the Bible, and they mix that with some kind of NASA observations. Problem with that is this: the Bible was written for us, simple people. It wasn't written for astronomers. And so when the events that are recorded in the last days start occurring, you will not have to go to TV to find out about it. You can go out in your yard and look up and see these things. These are going to be very, very obvious, easy to perceive things. And they may be, like right now, these people are looking at some kind of planet that's wandering around out there supposedly. It doesn't matter if that has anything to do with it or not, really. Because until it actually gets here, we're not going to know. When a simple man, a regular everyday person, can go outdoors and look up at the sky and see that something's wrong, that's when all of this is starting, not when NASA says it's wrong. That's it. This is basically the end of the... And look, obviously, as I'm doing other videos, the calendar is going to come up. The planets, the sun, the moon, they're going to come up because they're throughout the Bible. It's just that this series is over. If you don't want to survive, don't listen to me.